only on the Purple Acorn Network.
Hello, and welcome to From the Desk with Jada Montemarano, where we'll be discussing trends, hot topics, and diving into the tools and strategies that are helping organizations improve how they attract, retain, and support their most valuable asset, their people, while also giving job seekers tips to navigate this tumultuous job market. So grab your coffee, relax, and let's get into it, because this is From the Desk with Jada Montemarano, where we bring you the hottest HR news from the desk right to you. And today we are joined by Purple Acorn's very own Adam Posner. He's co-host with The Morning Show, but he's also the founder and president director at NHP Talent Group that focuses on recruitment strategy and talent process optimization. Adam helps companies with marketing, performance media, and content creation to bring the best talent to their teams. Now, before venturing into recruiting, Adam worked in the marketing world for major companies, which gives him that special knowledge, having been on both sides of hiring and building a brand. Adam has an insider's perspective on what it takes to build high-performing teams and thrive in today's fast-paced competitive landscape. So whether you're a startup looking to grow your team, an agency, or like I said, a job seeker, Adam's expertise is invaluable. So thanks so much for joining us today, Adam.
Jada, thank you so much for having me on Purple Acorn Family represent. I'm thrilled to be here and on the other side of the mic and the screen.
Yes, you're usually used to being the one being interviewed. So how does it feel to getting interviewed today?
I love it. I don't know if you know about this, I like to talk, so I'm happy to be on this side.
Perfect. So you'll give everyone the answers they're looking for today.
Do my best.
Perfect. So we're talking about that. You are a podcaster, you worked in marketing, now recruiting. What made you kind of transition to all these different aspects of your career?
I don't think anything made me do it. I've been embracing this concept a lot lately of this idea of a portfolio career, all these different elements. And I look back and I'm like, I'm in a place now where I could have that portfolio career. I'm a recruiter. I'm a business owner. I'm a podcaster. I'm a marketer. I'm a consultant. I am a speaker, a moderator. And all these things come together to not just be financially fulfilling, but also if it fills me inside, that I'm able to do all these things that I love to do together.
And we mentioned that you work with us here at Purple Acorn with The Morning Show, but you also started the podcast. So what do you talk about on your show? And you kind of touched on what got you into it, but who do you speak to and what can people learn from your show?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the questions. I started the show 6 years ago. We actually just celebrated our 6th anniversary this week of doing the show. Just passed recording 418 episodes, a little close to 1.7 million downloads. So it's been a journey, and it all started with an itch I needed to scratch. And I grew up, and still I'm a huge Howard Stern fan. And not the dirty porn star Howard Stern that people think he is, but in the last 15, 20 years since he went from terrestrial radio over to satellite radio, he's really blossomed into what I consider the best interviewer of all time. And Jada, the reason is because he turns every interview into a conversation. And that's what I strive to do on my show from a style and format standpoint. So what I do on my show as a recruiter, as a marketer, what I aim to do is unpack my guest's life story told through the lens of their career. So I pull out the wisdom, I pull out the gold, I pull out all those nuggets, tie it back together with their own career journey. And then I infuse, if they are a hiring manager, someone who makes decisions, we talk shop, we lift up the hood, we talk about hiring process, interview process. What are those magical questions that they ask a candidate to really understand the character in addition to the skill set?
And you mentioned you want to take out that wisdom. So what are you hoping to share with your viewers? What are you hoping that they learn from your show through all these different stories?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously each guest is different, right? And that's where the research and the prep comes in. And what I like to do is take my listeners on a journey. And it all starts with the story arc. Any good podcaster out there, any good interviewer knows that it comes with a lot of research. So it may seem effortless on the back end, but a lot of work gets into it. And I know at a high level where I want the story to go and where I want the insights. But the real goal, Jada, is when I could listen to those right and left turns and go down those rabbit holes and maybe talk about something with the guests that they haven't normally spoken about or ever spoken about before, because that's where the gold is, right? The gold is in your, pardon my French, your S-pit, right? Your ish pit, right? Like that's where the good stuff is. The good stuff is at the bottom. When that person is at their worst, at their lowest, and they're at rock bottom, because there's no better foundation to build upon than rock bottom, and that's where the gold is.
And you mentioned offline a little bit, you had a busy recording day, spoke to some great people. So is there any wisdom you want to share with our viewers,
Yeah.
something that you took away from it that they'll learn and maybe send you over to listen to your show to learn some more?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this concept of cultivating your audacity, right? And there's a subtle line there because it's not cockiness. It's being audacious in the best way possible. And it really comes down to taking your shot. And that comes with confidence, and that comes with practice and putting in the reps. And life goes on, life moves quick, and the clock is ticking, and you need to take advantage of every opportunity. And if you're in a room, you got invited in there for a reason. So you need to take advantage of it. So for me, and this is my mantra, is take your shot. Ask those questions. Put your ask out there to the universe. The worst thing somebody could say is no. The worst thing they could say is no. Actually, the best thing they could say is maybe, right? Because a no is a maybe, and that gives you an opportunity to take your shot again.
I love that tip because just saying that it's not cockiness. I remember way back when in the beginning of my career, I got told by a agent that I was speaking to that I would never make it and that he could tell I was from New York because I was aggressive,
That's a bad
because
thing.
I spoke about myself and I was confident. So I share that message as well. Don't take it wrong.
And confidence is not cockiness too. And I want everyone to understand that too. And maybe it comes off a little bit that way because we are New Yorkers, and it's just our style and our brashness. And I think that it's earned. I think it's earned. And I think where it does come off as cocky is if you don't have the receipts to prove it.
Exactly. So I love that message. And we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about that previous life of yours being in New York, working in your marketing background. I know you worked at SiriusXM and American Express, really big businesses. So how did that inform you working on the marketing side for over about 15 years now into the recruiting aspect?
Well, there's two sides of it. First and foremost, I learned, most importantly, I learned what I did not like. And I think that's a lesson for everyone in their career, as much as what you enjoy, learning what you really don't like to do. So as you grow through your career, you're not getting sucked into doing things you don't want to do, and you could focus with your eye on the prize of what you want to be doing. The other piece is discipline and process. And I think I learned that the most from my short time at American Express. Fantastic organization, incredible process. Culture-wise, it wasn't right for me, and I learned that pretty quickly early on. But I learned so much about how to be organized and understanding the financial element of the marketing side of business. And I'm able to apply those foundational elements now to my business as a business owner and keep my business, my books, all that focused while really focusing on allowing time to focus on the content and the creative elements of it.
Okay, so this is a little bit off topic, and I teased it a little bit earlier offline, but you are part of the Purple Acorn family, so we know some secrets there. So I hear you have some fun stories from your time working at SiriusXM. I actually, my fiance used to work there as well. I've been in those offices in New York. So tell us some of your little stories that you can maybe share with us of your time there.
Oh man, I mean, I worked there 2006 or 2011, so it was a heyday, and it was still very early, pre-social media, so you were able to do things, get away with a lot of things without cameras in your faces all the time. And we had incredible access. And every night we would get a list of who the celebrities and artists would be in the building the next day. And there were sometimes we had opportunities to go down and watch them perform, from behind the glass, which is incredible too. And you never knew who you were going to run into at the elevator. And I always tell the story, and I'll keep it clean here. I was in the bathroom on the 36th floor where the studios were, and I'm doing my business. And I kind of glance over to my left, and it's Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan is literally like, Hulk Hogan's everything to me. I grew up as a wrestling fan in the late 80s and the 90s. So, again, I take my shot. I go, in my best Hulk Hogan, "What's up there, brother?" And Hulk turns to me, and he goes, "Not even close, brother."
That's amazing.
And I was just like, that was a fun one, too. And then there's been some, interesting elevator rides, too. I've been in an elevator with John Bon Jovi. That was pretty cool. I don't know. This is kind of a B-list random celebrity. I don't know if you know of a gentleman by the name of Bear Grylls. Bear Grylls does a show called Man vs. Wild. He's a British Green Beret. He's summited every mountain. He goes out in the wild with nothing, and he takes celebrities with him. And he's someone I've always looked up to. He's incredible, and I had an opportunity to meet him a couple of times. And one time I came down with his recent book in my hand, and I had him sign it, and we're chatting for a little bit, and he's just sitting there, and he leaves. And he leaves his phone on the table. And this is somebody who's a survivalist who's literally climbed Everest with, nothing on but a Speedo, right? I don't mean that. But I mean, the guy is a true adventurous. And as he's walking to the elevator, I'm running after him. I'm like, Bear. I'm like, "You forgot your phone." And I can't believe I said this to him. I said, "I bet you can't live without this, Bear." And he goes, "Sadly not." So just a couple little fun Sirius XM celebrity stories.
Yeah, I think things go down in the bathrooms there. My fiance was
Oh
an M&M,
yeah.
so
That is a story over not on air of stuff
you
that's
meet a
gone
lot of
down at
people in those
Sirius XM.
bathrooms, I guess.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that one. Thank God there's no cameras in there.
Yeah, don't worry. We're going to move it on to the present now. So now with your company on that recruiting side, let's teach our viewers a little bit today. I love when they could take away something from this about either them on the company side or, like I mentioned earlier, on the job seeker side. So why is it so important for companies to advertise to future employees? I had someone else in this field on a few weeks ago, and I never really thought about it that way, marketing to future employees. So why is that so important?
Yeah, employer branding is key, right? Because you need to stand out. And even though there's so many folks out of work and there's a lot more folks out of work than jobs right now, that's going to change. It's cyclical. It goes with the economy and politics and so forth. So it's going to come back around, and you need to stand out. What makes your company more attractive to a job seeker? Why does somebody want to work there? And it really is best about representing your values and your real values, not your BS, corporate values on your webpage, but what do you really stand for? And something I saw a couple of months ago on LinkedIn, there was a early stage startup, and the founder put out a role for an engineer, and it basically said, we work 6 days a week. We work, 10, 12 hours a day. This is a culture because we're in building and growth mode. If this is for you, great. If not, it's okay, but we're going to be transparent and put it out there. Because there are people that want to be part of something. There are people that have no problem putting in the work, but they're being upfront and transparent about that. And that stood out to me. It had all these trolls on there saying, oh, who are you to work that much and, expect that much out of people? I go, absolutely not. I go, they are being their true, authentic self, and they're putting it out there because they're going to weed out all those applicants that don't have that ability or work ethic that want to do that and don't want to be part of something. And here's the other thing too. If you want to stand out, you got to do what 99% of the other brands are not doing out there. And you got to go out on a limb and take that risk and take that next step as far as employee branding. Put yourself on podcasts, use other non-traditional forms of media to get in front of candidates and be on their radar.
And I was going to ask that next, actually. How do you handle the balance between hiring quality people, but also keeping up with the new ways of marketing and social media? Now learning about content creators specifically for hiring. It's a whole new world out there.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. And again, it comes down to skill set and candidates out there that are continuing to upskill with technology, whether it be AI and other creative tools that are out there, are going to set themselves apart. Because so many, and it's true, so many of the roles out there are going to be replaced by AI. And the way you future-proof yourself is to be the master of those skills. So you could come in and add value, and you could be the operator that's controlling it with your creative marketing background and prowess behind it. So you really need to find a way to stand out and market yourself to these companies.
And we talk a lot about this technology, AI, on this show, kind of coming into the hiring process. But we also know, in just basic terms, the job boards like Indeed and Glassdoor, all of these application sites with technology. In your opinion, are recruiters still needed? Why are they still important?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're still going to need the human element for most jobs out there. Because as a recruiter, you need to understand a candidate's motivation, because that's what's going to close them. Everyone is motivated to take or leave a job for a certain reason. Is it money? Are you not happy where you are? Are you being pulled by factors at home, whatever it is? Because that's how you're going to close that candidate. You're going to lean into it. Now, I'm not saying it in a malicious way, but it's a sell. It's a sell, right? So you need to know what their motivations are, and that's a human side. On the flip side of that, too, you need to be able to answer those questions that a robot can't do and talk about the intrinsic values of an organization, talk about the hiring managers, the team, the expectations. Certain things cannot be automated. But what automation can do is get you so far the way the process as a company that allows more time for a recruiter to have the human time that is necessary to do it right.
And what are the tips for those recruiters when it becomes to that human aspect to kind of sell the job or keep people in the job? I know you mentioned it seems like the job market is dire, but the job seekers still have the choice to take it or not.
Yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, you do have the choice there, too. And I really think it comes down from a recruiter side is the ability to listen. And how do you have the mental framework to sift through hundreds or thousands of applications to find the right candidate? And unfortunately, right now, with so many good folks out of work, that if you're not a top performer, if you don't have those exact skills that they're looking for, your resume is not going to get to the top. Now we get to the top of the pile, and that pile is even thicker than ever. So now it's a recruiter's job to be able to have those conversations with the candidates and truly understand not just can they do what they said they do, but tell me, how did you figure it out? What was your contribution there? And help them and understand and listen to them properly articulate their background and skill set, and how did they figure out and problem solve within that role, because that's what's going to set you apart in the interview.
And for the job seekers in that part, how do they get set apart? How do you make sure you're getting across everything you want? Because I know we talk about on this show a lot of people that lie on their resumes or pad their resumes, but for the people who are telling the truth but maybe aren't good at communicating that, what are your tips for that?
Get better at communicating. No, I'm dead serious about that. I think that so many candidates half-ass the interview process and they don't prepare for it. This is your shot. Going back to what I said earlier, you got to take your shot. And you need to plan your work and work your plan. It sounds cliche, but the job search process is harder than any job you've ever had. So if you get through the door, you get to that resume, that first recruiter screen, you better prepare. The two worst things that a candidate could do: one, not prepare, not research your organization, and just phone it in. You cannot do that. And the last thing, if you're not prepared with questions, as a recruiter, when I get to the end of an interview and I go, hey, do you have any questions for me? And they say no, it's almost like a giant like fail, do not pass, ghost stamp right on it. It shows that you weren't listening and you really don't care.
Do you have any general questions that usually work in those moments that impress you?
So it's a good question, because when I've done candidate coaching, I think that a good question to ask is, what does success look like in this role in the first 30, 60, 90 days? Because that's going to tell you a couple things. One, is the company prepared to properly onboard you and give you time to warm up into the role, or you're being thrown into the fire? And a good company will be transparent. They'll say, hey, listen, we're short-staffed. We're throwing you right into the fire. Is this something that you're prepared for? So I think that's critical from a candidate standpoint. Another good question is, like, tell me a little bit more about the hiring manager. What's their work style? How do they like to operate? Are they micromanagers? Are they very hands-on? Why? Or it's a tough question to say, why did the last person not work out in this role? Because that's opening up a can of worms. So you have to be mindful about reading the room and, thinking about who your audience is.
And we're talking about tips for the job seekers, but what are the tips now for these companies trying to stand out? You mentioned a lot of people seem like there are no jobs, but that will change. So what can companies do to set themselves apart to say, hey, we are a great company to work at? Or like you mentioned in another case, these are the hours and this is the work, but if that's for you, we're here.
Empower your employees to create content on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Genuine, authentic, user-generated content. Not giving them a script, not giving them, templates, graphic templates to use, but saying, hey, we trust you. If you feel you want to say good things about us, go for it. Empower them to do that. That is key. There's no better advocate for your brand than a current employee.
And I feel like in the past, companies never wanted you to talk about work on social media.
Never.
I'm a millennial. I'm from the age that was like, you had to have a different Facebook name so companies wouldn't look what you did up in your personal time.
We don't want to know your Facebook name, do we?
It's so wild to me to see the changes of people actually putting their resumes on social media now, when we were told social media is the opposite. You do not want anyone looking at that. So are companies now learning that you need to let your employees talk about their job and show what the offices look like? Our companies should be doing this, you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way, I'm a big believer in show versus tell. And that comes through in various forms of content. And again, empowering your team to put it out there. Show a day in the life. Day in the life content's fantastic right now.
I know it seems like I always hear the influencers who leave their jobs, people don't find them as entertaining anymore.
Something like that.
All right. So now looking ahead a little bit about what you have coming up. So we have that Transform conference that you're going to. Can you tell us a little bit about it for viewers who may not know?
Yeah. So for me, the Transform conference is the Super Bowl of our industry. It's fantastic. It's incredibly well done, well produced. But I think the star of Transform, well, there's two stars. One is the venue. There's no better venue in Vegas than the Wynn. There's a vibe to it. There's an energy. It's contagious. It's not your concrete exposition halls. There's a warmth to it. It's good, and there's a vibe, and it's great to have all your old friends and meeting new friends together at one event. So I'm going to give a little alpha here and announce I'm doing two things. First and foremost, I will be joining my friends over at Greenhouse, and I'm going to be broadcasting the podcast from the Greenhouse booth on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons. Incredible lineup of thought leaders, industry experts that I'll be interviewing on behalf of Greenhouse and broadcasting the episodes on the podcast. And Wednesday at 11 a.m., I will be hosting a panel with Ariana Moon. She's the VP of Talent at Greenhouse, along with Corey Farrow. She's the VP of Recruiting at Okta. And we are going to be speaking, and the title is Future-Proofing Talent Acquisition, Elevating the Candidate Experience. Something very near and dear to my heart. How do we leverage both technology and the human side to really create an incredible candidate experience? And I think so many great companies actually fail at the candidate experience, where they're not putting the resources or the time or they're short-staffed. But a bad candidate experience sometimes results, many times, in a poor hire. The candidate's not properly onboarded. The expectations weren't set. So we're going to get into that and a whole lot more. So Transform's a place to be. It is just absolutely incredible and awesome.
Is there anything you're looking forward to the most from going from a learning perspective for you and not you're the host perspective?
Yeah, well, it's interesting too. So a lot of time at these events, I don't have the time to go sit in to the speakers. I don't have the time because I'm broadcasting. I'm working. I don't have the ability to do that. So for me, it's those interviews. It's the real-time, in-the-moment interviews. What's happening right now in our industry? What are the hot topics? And I'm just a canvas, and I'm laying it out and asking the right questions and bringing it back to the audience out there.
And speaking of that, is there anything you could tease of what you spoke about who you're speaking to on your shows, but is there anything you can tease about what you said of making the job applicator experience a little bit better for people, for our companies watching that want to take a tip away today?
Keep it as easy and seamless as possible. Upload the resume, a couple of questions. I'm also actually, hot take, you want it to be as short as possible, but I also think there's an opportunity here for weed out people who are using auto applies and may not be genuinely interested. I am okay with a couple of open-ended questions. I'm okay with that. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to see the level of effort you put in early on. I'm not talking about an old Workday kind of platform where you have to refill in everything on your resume and everything. Have that all automated. Have that done easy and just flawless. And put in a couple of open-ended, really thought-provoking questions.
So that's that technology and human aspect right there together.
Yes.
And then I always like to end the show looking forward and giving job seekers a piece of advice as well. So we've been talking a lot about the tumultuous job market. So what is one major piece of advice for anyone looking for a job right now to help them find that job or land that job?
It's a tough one out there because I have so much empathy. I've been on the other side before. Earlier in my career, I've been out of work 4 or 5 times, as long as almost 9 months. It was brutal. You need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of yourself mentally and physically. You need to go out for walks. You need to get air. You need to air yourself out. You need to make yourself presentable every day and feel like you're working, right? Because I said before, you treat your job search like a job. But the most important piece of advice is plan your work and work your plan. Every day, have a plan of action and a plan of attack for your job search. I'm going to research these companies. I'm going to follow up with these people. I'm going to apply for these jobs. I'm going to network with these folks. Have a list so you feel accomplished. So you feel like you're not just, throwing the balls up in the air and seeing wherever they land. No, you have a target and a goal and that you're accountable to yourself.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Finding a job these days is a job in itself. So it takes a lot of work.
Sure does.
Well, thank you, Adam, so much for coming on the show today, and good luck at Transform. Everybody stay tuned to all of his shows on the podcast from Transform coming up. So exciting.
Thank you so much, Jada.
And thank you all for listening today. You could catch us every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you're hungry for other Purple Acorn shows like The Morning Show with Adam, you can head to purpleacornnetwork.com and Purple Acorn on LinkedIn. See you next time at From the Desk with me, Jada.